Fortunately, though, now this is the really, really cool thing. The Buddha described two kinds of dependent arising, and the bottom one is what we'll talk about a lot this weekend. The second chain of causes and conditions is considered a path of liberation or transcendence. It's a reverse sequence where conditions that nurture freedom from suffering are cultivated and encouraged. This second one is so much more wholesome, and it has so many advantages in the way it prepares your body-mind for freedom, in the way it supports a foundation of happiness and tranquility, which then supports insight. So it's little known and discussed in beginning and intermediate practice levels, likely because it can lead to striving, because these are really pleasant states and you can easily start to cling after them, right? It's very similar to the anapanasati practice that we did in the spring, and it can lead to striving too. So we'll take a look at that one. We look at step one. It begins with suffering. So it starts with suffering, not ignorance. Suffering is the start of something good, just like the theme of this retreat. Suffering is a doorway, right? So when you recognize that you're suffering and that you don't like it, it's not satisfying. This isn't what I want from life, right? Not in a striving way. When I say this isn't what I want from life, I'm actually talking about like a wholesome and aspirational way, a loving way. Like, this is hard, I want something different from life. From there, when you recognize that, you have intention for things to be different. From there, if you're not caught up in the poisons, the next thing is conviction can arise. It can be nurtured. So conviction, like firm and confident trust in the possibility of freedom from suffering or the effectiveness of the Dharma, it's not simple faith at all. It's really conviction, really. It's a turning point. And it's a really different turning point than the one in the 12 depressing links. That's what I call them. Conviction is the magic moment. It's something we can encourage and nurture. And then you'll notice all the steps after that are wholesome and positive states. So number 3, a sense of gladness or delight that arises from conviction. Anybody ever feel that, there's a feeling of gladness when you've connected with the reasons for your practice and you have trust that it has helped and will help? You know that feeling? Yeah, we can't be possessed by the poisons to have that happen, right? Poisons aren't there. It's like, oh gosh, I love this path. I see the power of this path. I trust it. So that would be that gladness that you can get from conviction, right? Starts with conviction. And from gladness very easily arises joy, or piti in Pali. You know how it is. You got delight, and then it's even more uplifting. You have joy in the practice. Anybody have joy in the practice ever? Yeah, right? Joy. But joy cannot be maintained because it's a little intense. Typically, joy would then settle back into tranquility. Now, anybody been working with the Anapanasati since last spring? So you'll start to see that these are really similar to the Anapanasati. From tranquility, we can get happiness and contentment. Don't you guys love this? Don't you totally love it? Because when we're tranquil and content, nothing bothers us, right? And again, we can't do this cycle here if we're strongly possessed by the poisons. The poisons have to be weakened. Greed, hatred, and those don't mix together very well. They have to be filtered out. So from happiness and contentment, then you have the ability to deeply concentrate, or that's samadhi. So you can be really steady and deep in your concentration, and that can't happen if you're caught up in struggle. So contentment is a precursor to concentration. And then when we can concentrate, knowledge and vision of things as they really are can arise, or insight, vipassana, seeing things clearly. And that's the wisdom. Do you see how you can get to the wisdom by cultivating wholesome states? You don't have to do that that cycle of 12 depressing links. That's the wisdom. And then when we can see clearly the wisdom, we are now disenchanted with clinging and suffering. These habits of mind no longer appeal because we've seen clearly, right? And with disenchantment comes dispassion, which is a gradual fading of clinging and desire. Fading, right? Dispassion. When clinging and desire have faded, liberation is possible, attaining freedom from clinging and therefore freedom from suffering. With liberation comes knowledge of the destruction of the poison. So basically you have really a deep understanding that the poisons are gone, no more poisons. That would be enlightenment, right? You have purified the poisons completely, and you know that you purify the poisons completely. The Buddha has this thing about you can experience something, but then you have to know that you've experienced it, which is the culmination of all of it. And then like Sam's cycle, this can play out in moments of our lives, in formal practice, as well as the grand scheme of all of our lifetimes, if we have multiple lifetimes. I'm just saying. So these 12 links of liberative dependent arising are, from my point of view, wonderful. I have conviction about them. And what's so awesome is just the way they naturally flow from one to the other without work. Tranquility and happiness are naturally needed as precursors to concentration. Each link needs the previous one to manifest. And when we have conviction, number 2, when we have conviction, this process and outcome is inevitable. I've experienced it. And you can see how different these are, but they actually present a balanced framework for orienting our lives for freedom. And in their balance, they can work together. So, for conviction to arise, you can't be strongly caught up in the poisons. There has to be some suffering, but you can't be caught up in the poisons. So you can work on the 12 depressing links to, weaken the poisons, and then you can move down to the other cycle. Like Sam, how can you find conviction when the poisons are so strongly active? You see how that works? And, obviously there's a risk of falling into striving or greed because these states are so wholesome and pleasant, right? So it's really more that we want to just gently nurture and encourage them, and we'll have a chance to do some practices around that this weekend. Tomorrow we'll talk about hindrances, which is a guided practice that trains us to recognize poisons and offer antidotes so that the wholesome states can be nurtured. So you'll be able to work on subduing the poisons tomorrow.